Okay. So who are you? So we all have a family tree that we belong to, but none of us know precisely where we come from. And here, this is where we're going to deal with this issue, especially in the days that we live in. It is the glory of Elohim to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings is to search out a matter. Call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and marvelous things which thou knowest not. Okay, my main resources are the 1906 Jewish Encyclopedia, the Encyclopedia Britannica, Wikipedia, the King James Version Bible, and if I use something else, I cited it. So the Jewish Encyclopedia, it is prepared by more than 600 scholars and specialists, which that was my favorite resource. Okay, I've cross-referenced some of the articles of particular interest from Wikipedia, and I also used it when I was not able to find the information elsewhere. A certain article cited books that I did not get a chance to read because I don't own them. This subject requires a lifetime of study. This is a disclaimer. Okay. Some have dedicated their entire lives on the subject, to which you will be learning in the following slides. I have lent my trust to the resources I have consulted, while also crossing reference to the best of my ability without containing every book needed in my personal library. Okay, so we're going to go through some history. Okay, so you've got King Saul, King David, King Solomon. And when thy days be fulfilled, David, and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed before thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom, and he shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul when I put away before thee. And thine house and thy kingdom shall be established forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever. 2 Samuel 7:12-16. So for those who are watching this and don't know the complete history, King Saul was the first king, and then King David, and then King David's son, which was King Solomon, because the kingdom got ripped away from King Saul. And Yahweh was angry with Solomon, whose Hebrew name was Shlomo, because his heart was turned from Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods. But he kept not that which Yahweh commanded. Wherefore Yahweh said unto Solomon, Shlomo, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and I will give it to thy servant. Notwithstanding in the days, I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. So because Solomon had started following other gods and married women who were heathens, and God warned him not to do that. God warned all of his people not to do that earlier, before they came into the land, and he disobeyed God, even though God appeared to him twice. So God took the kingdom from Solomon, but he allowed Solomon to keep his reign, but his son, he took his kingdom from it, but only gave him one other tribe. And you'll find out more about that. And when Jeroboam was a mighty man of Valor. And Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. And it came to pass at that time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem that the prophet Ahijah, the Shilonite, found him in the way, and Jeroboam had clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field. And Ahijah caught the new garment, which was on Jeroboam, and rent it into 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces of thus saith Yahweh, Elohim of Israel. Behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee. But Solomon shall have one tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all of the tribes. So here God sent Jeroboam, the prophet Ahijah, and he tore his brand new garment that he had and ripped it up into 10 pieces. And so he's saying that I'm going to give these 10 tribes to you because that thou have forsaken me and have worshipped Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways to do that which is right in my eyes, and to keep my statutes, my judgments, as did David his father. So that's why he did it. Howbeit, I will not take the whole kingdom out of Shlomo's hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David my servant's sake, whom I have chosen, because he kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son Solomon's hand, and will give it unto thee, Jeroboam, even 10 tribes, and unto Solomon's son will I give one tribe, that David my servant may have a light always before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen me to put my name. So Jeroboam gets to keep one tribe. Oh, sorry, not Jeroboam, Solomon's son, which is Rehoboam. And I will take thee, Jeroboam, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desireth, and shall be king over Israel. So now you have a division of kingdoms. And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all that I commanded thee, and will walk in my ways, and do what is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with thee, Jeroboam, and build thee a sure house, as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee, the house of Israel, because you've got a division here. And I will for this afflict the seed of David, but not forever. Shlomo sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt, unto Shishak, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. So the anointed king, well, I guess he's not anointed yet, but the Lord spoke to him saying, I'm going to make you king. He fled into Egypt away from Solomon, because Solomon knew that the kingdom was going to be given to him, and he didn't want that to happen. And the time that Shlomo reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years, and Solomon slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David his father, and Rehoboam, which is his son, reigned in his stead. And Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel was come to Shechem to make him king. And it came to pass, when Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who was yet in Egypt, heard of it, for he was fled from the presence of King Solomon, and Jeroboam dwelt in Egypt, that they sent and called him. And Jeroboam and all the congregation of Israel came and spake unto Rehoboam, saying, thy father Solomon made our yoke grievous. Now therefore make thou the grievous service of thy father, and his heavy yoke which he put on us lighter, and we will serve thee. And he said unto them, depart yet for 3 days, then come again to me. And the people departed. So the people of the kingdom of the kingdom has not been split yet in this present situation of the scripture. And all the people are coming to Rehoboam and say, Solomon's yoke was too heavy on us. Please tell us that you will lighten that yoke up. And if you do, we'll serve you. So Jeroboam and all the people came to, so Jeroboam came back from Egypt, and he's with all these people and he's pleading Rehoboam to lighten the yoke. And then he came back on the third day, as the king Rehoboam had appointed, saying, come to me again the third day. And the king answered the people. The king Rehoboam answered to the people with Jeroboam present. And he answered them roughly. And he forsook the old men's counsel that they gave him. And he spake to them after the counsel of the young men, saying, my father Shlomo made your yoke heavy, and I will add to your yoke. My father Solomon also chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. Wherefore the king Rehoboam hearkened not unto the people, for the cause was from Yahweh, that he might perform his saying which Yahweh spake by Ahijah the Shilonite unto Jeroboam the son of Nebat. So he was given advice from the elders, and he was given advice. This is King Rehoboam, and he was given advice from his friends that he grew up with. And he rejected the advice of the elders, and he took the advice of the young people who he grew up with. So when all Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them, the people answered the king, saying, what portion have we in David? Neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel. Now see to thine own house, David. So Israel departed unto their tents, but as for the children of Israel, which dwelt in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them. Then King Rehoboam sent Adoniram, who was over the tribute, and all Israel stoned him with stones that he died. Therefore, King Rehoboam made speed to get him up to his chariot to flee to Jerusalem. So Israel rebelled against the house of David unto this day. So all the people, so you have the guy who's going to do tribute, Adoniram, and it would be like the IRS coming. And so it would be like us stoning the IRS and saying, you're not taking anything from me. I'm going to separate from the United States. And so this is what happened. So you had all the, you have the land of Israel, and then you have all the different locations of the different 12 tribes of the land that God had given them. And all those dwelling in their own cities said, I'm not going to serve you anymore. And you can just, you can serve over your own kingdom, and that's it. We're not going to serve you. And so then they stoned Adoniram. But you also had different tribes in the place of Judah, because here it says, so Israel departed into their tents, but as for the children of Israel, which dwelt in the cities of Judah, so you had the area of Judah. So there were other Israelites that were also in the area of Judah that were not from the tribe of Judah. And Rehoboam, which was the son of Solomon, he reigned over them. Okay, so here's the kingdoms. So you have the kingdom of Israel. Can you see my mouse? Can you see my mouse? Yeah, okay. Okay, so you have the kingdom of Israel, which is right here. And that's the northern kingdom. And this is where the 10 tribes were located. Then you have the southern kingdom, which is the kingdom of Judah. And the extra tribe that God gave to him was the tribe of Benjamin. So you have Judah and Benjamin, and you have some of the Levites, because they don't have any land. They're just kind of scattered into all the different cities. And also you have any of the other remnants of Israel who decided to live in Judah. They're there, but now the kingdom is divided. Is everyone following me? Okay. And when Rehoboam was come to Jerusalem, he assembled all the house of Judah with the tribe of Benjamin. So there it is right there, tribe of Benjamin. That's the one tribe that God gave to him extra. And 184,000 men, chosen men, which were warriors to fight against the house of Israel, to bring the kingdom again to Rehoboam, the son of Solomon. But the word of Elohim came unto Shemaiah, the man of Elohim, saying, speak unto Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, king of Judah, and to all the house of Judah and Benjamin, and to the remnant of the people, saying, the remnant of the people is the remnant of the children of the northern kingdom. So the ones who were staying in Judah. Thus saith Yahweh, ye shall not go up nor fight against your brethren, the children of Israel. Return every man to his house, for this thing is from me. They hearkened therefore to the word of Yahweh and returned to depart according to the word of Yahweh. So here you've got the Israelites. Okay, so now from now on in the Bible is now you're going to see a division in the Bible. You're going to see the kingdom of Israel, and you're going to, or it also says the house of Israel. So every time it says the house of Israel, it's talking about the northern kingdom. And every time it says the house of Judah, or sometimes it even says Jews, Jews does not mean this whole thing. Jews just means the kingdom of Judah, just the house of Judah. Okay. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David, if this people go up to sacrifice in the house of Yahweh. So this is Jeroboam, the soldier / servant of Solomon. This is not Solomon's son. This is the king of the house of Israel. And so he's saying to himself, then shall the heart of this people turn against unto their Lord, which is himself, even unto Rehoboam, king of Judah, and they shall kill me, and go again to Rehoboam, king of Judah. Wherefore the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold. So he doesn't want them going to Jerusalem to worship God anymore, because he doesn't want them leaving the cities of Israel. So he makes 2 calves of gold and said unto them, is it too much for you to go to Jerusalem? Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. This exact thing happened when Moses was up in the mountain. Behold, Yahweh, and it actually said Yahweh. And he set the one in Bethel, and the other he put in Dan, and this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan. And he made a house of high places and made priests of the lowest of the people, which were not of the sons of Levi. So here he's disobeying the order that God had set in place. And Jeroboam ordained a feast in the 8 months. So they made their own holiday, which I thought was quite interesting. On the 15th day of the month, like unto the feasts that are in Judah, and he offered upon the altar. So did he in Bethel, sacrificing unto the calves that he had made. And he placed in Bethel the priests of the high places which he had made. So he offered upon the altar which he had made in Bethel the 15th day of the 8th month, even the month which he had devised of his own heart, and ordained a feast unto the children of Israel. And he offered upon the altar and burnt incense. So here I just want to point this out. So you have Easter, which kind of replaces Passover in some ways. And this is exactly what Jeroboam did. He made another holiday in the place during the same time of the feasts of the Lord. And God took offense to that. Go, tell Jeroboam, thus saith Yahweh Elohim of Israel, for as much as I exalted thee from among the people and made thee prince over my people Israel, and rent the kingdom away from the house of David and gave it to thee. Okay, so everything in red is concerning the kingdom of Israel. Everything in blue is concerning the kingdom of Judah. And yet thou hast not been as my servant David, who has kept my commandments, and who followed me with all of his heart to do that only which was right in mine eyes, but hast done evil above all that was before thee. So he's the most wicked, even more wicked than Saul. For thou hast gone and made the other gods and molten images to provoke me to anger, and hast cast me behind thy back. Therefore, behold, I will bring evil upon the house of Jeroboam, and Yahweh shall smite Israel as a reed is shaken in the water, and he shall root up Israel out of his good land, which he gave to their fathers, and shall scatter them beyond the river, because they have made their groves, provoking Yahweh to anger. And he shall give Israel up because of the sons of Jeroboam, who did sin, and who made Israel also to sin. So here you have the kings. So the kings that are in red are the ones that were wicked before the Lord. And Okay, so Nimshi right here, which is the only one that's black. He actually should have been red. So every single one of the kings of Israel were all wicked, every single one of them. But you have some kings of Judah who were good. And here's the rest of the kings of Judah. So all of these ones were good. No, that's not true. Sorry, I didn't do my due diligence and change some of these colors because some of these were wicked because they got sent out into captivity. Okay, well, here at the end of the king of Israel, the kings of Israel is right here. So Hosea was the last one and was sent into captivity and placed in Halal and in the harbor by the river Gozan. Okay, so what did Elohim do with the house of Judah? And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that okay, this is Judah, that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came, he and all his hosts, against Jerusalem and pitched against it, and they built forts against it round about. And the city was besieged unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And the army of the Chaldees pursued after the king and took him in the plains of Jericho, and all his army were scattered from him. So they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon to Riblah, and they gave judgment upon him, and they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him with fetters of brass, and carried him to Babylon. That is super extreme. They put his eyes out. And so this is representing the king of Babylon. Why did Elohim send the Israelites into captivity? And Elohim of Israel stirred up the spirit of Pul, king of Assyria, which is also known as, and then it says, and the spirit of Tilgath-Pileser, king of Assyria. So he was called both of those things. And he carried them away, even the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh, and brought them unto Hala and Haber and Hara to the river Gozan unto this very day, or unto this day. Why did Elohim send the Israelites into captivity? The king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Halal and harbor by the river of Gozan, the cities of the Medes. Oh, and I forgot to mention that the new capital of Israel was Samaria. And then the capital of the kingdom of Judah was Jerusalem. For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against Yahweh their Elohim, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods and walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom Yahweh cast out from before the children of Israel and of the kings of Israel, which they made. And the children of Israel did secretly those things which were not right against Yahweh their Elohim, and they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the catchment to the fenced city. And they set them up images and groves in every high hill and under every green tree, and there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathen whom Yahweh carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke Yahweh to anger. Son of man, lift up thine eyes now the way toward the north. So I lifted up mine eyes the way toward the north, and behold, northward at the gate of the altar, this image of jealousy in the entry. This is Ezekiel. He said furthermore unto me, Son of man, see thou what they do, even the great abominations that the house of Israel, so this is the northern kingdom, commits here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary, but turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations. And he brought me, Ezekiel, to the door of the court, and when I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. Then said he unto me, Son of man, dig now in the wall. And when I had digged in the wall, behold, a door. And he said unto me, Go in, and behold the wicked abominations that they do here. So I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping thing and abominable beasts, and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel, and in the midst of them stood Jazaniah the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, a censer that we should be burning to Yahweh and not to other gods. And a thick cloud of incense went up. Then he said unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark? Every man in the chambers of his imagery, for they forsake Yahweh, for they say, Yahweh seeth not, Yahweh hath forsaken the earth. Can you hear the emotion in God's voice here? His heart is absolutely broken, and he's wanting someone else to see and feel the pain that he sees. And so he's showing one of his prophets because he wants to share that heartache that he's having. For they served idols, whereof Yahweh had said unto them, Ye shall not do this thing. Yet Yahweh testified against Israel and against Judah by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying, Turn ye from your evil ways and keep my commandments and my statutes, according to all the law which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by my servants the prophets. And so here you have God, you have Yahweh, who took us out of Egypt, and he had so much compassion on us, and then took care of us like a nursing mother takes care of a baby in the desert. And he gave us these commandments, and all these commandments are love, every single one of them. If we go through every one of these commandments, they're all on how to love your neighbor and how to love God. That's every single one of them. None of them have anything to do with anything else, except for maybe like rituals on how to get your sins forgiven. And even that is love, because he's trying to show us how he wanted our sins to be forgiven, because he wanted there to not be any enmity between him and us. Of course, this was in the old covenant. And so here we are forsaking him and breaking his heart. And his heart is really broken, like really, really broken. And I imagine that he's like, if I just try to put my head around it, that he would be sick to his stomach. Because when he says he wants to vomit us out of his mouth, I think that's when, like, if someone betrayed you so badly, it would just make you sick to your stomach and you just want to vomit because of the intensity of emotions that it brings you. And so here he is saying, look at all these elders. They're supposed to be loving me. They're supposed to be worshiping me. They're supposed to be praying to me. But nope, they're not doing any of that. They're worshiping these gods who didn't do anything for them. They don't talk. They don't speak. They can't do a single thing for them. Yet they're giving all their love and devotion to them. And it's super offensive. It would be like if we gave our children presents and a safe home, and then when they grow up, they say, This is my mother, and they point to someone else and they give you no credit whatsoever. They don't even acknowledge you, even though you poured your love, you poured gifts, you did everything you could for them. It's the same thing. It's a betrayal. Here, the house of Israel betrayed Yahweh, their Elohim, and it's really breaking his heart. Okay, did I read this part? Notwithstanding, they would not hear. So God is saying, keep my commandments. What he's saying is, I'm showing you how to love, and I want you to love. I want you to love each other. I want you to love me. I want you to acknowledge me, because I'm the one who poured out all my heart on you, and I did everything I could for you, and I want you to acknowledge me. And they're saying, nope, we're not going to do it. Notwithstanding, they would not hear, but hardened their necks like to the neck of their fathers that did not believe in Yahweh their Elohim. And they rejected his statutes and his covenants that he made with their fathers, and his testimonies, which he testified against them. And they followed vanity and became vain, and went after the heathen that were round about them, concerning whom Yahweh had charged them, that they should not do like them. And they left all the commandments of Yahweh their Elohim, and made them molten images, even 2 calves, and made a grove, and worshipped all the hosts of heaven, and served Baal. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, and used divinations and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of Yahweh, to provoke him to anger. And actually, I want to show you a video to help you understand this a little bit better. 1 second. This is spontaneous. I didn't plan on this video being shown, but I think it's worth if I can find it. No.
Welcome to Parshat.
Can you hear it? Hold on 1 second. Let me share. Yeah. Oh, you have to see it too. Share computer sound. Okay, can you see the screen?
Re'eh.
Can you
If
hear
there's
it?
one thing we see everywhere in the book of Dvarim, it's the laws against Avodah Zarah, worshipping foreign gods. It was in Vaitchanan in the Ten Commandments, in Akev, where
Is it too low? Can you hear it pretty well? It needs to go up more. Okay, hold on a second.
Moses scolded the people.
Mm. Okay.
Welcome to Parshat Re'eh. If there's one thing we see everywhere in the book of Dvarim, it's the laws against Avodah Zarah, worshipping foreign gods. It was in Vaitchanan in the Ten Commandments, in Akev, where Moses scolded the people over the golden calf, and it's here, now, in Parshat Re'eh. Moses says, Abed te'abdun et kol ha'mekomot asher abdu sham hagoyim. You should destroy all the places where the other nations serve their gods. We get it. God doesn't like Avodah Zarah. But we're not done. Later in this parsha, we hear that not only should we destroy all the idols, but we shouldn't try to worship God through any means or rituals that were used for Avodah Zarah. And we hear about the false prophet who tries to lead people to do Avodah Zarah, and the family member who tries to get you to do Avodah Zarah, and the laws of a city that does Avodah Zarah. Why is God so obsessed with Avodah Zarah? And God's not the only one. The people seem to really have this strong desire to worship foreign gods. And that's like not something we encounter on a daily basis. How many of you have a friend, Sally, who tries to catch you on your way to synagogue? Psst, come with me. Let's pass our children through fire in the worship of Molech. What was it about Avodah Zarah that made it so attractive and therefore so destructive that God needs to devote law after law to its eradication? Okay, so maybe the answer is that back then there was a temptation for idol worship, but we don't have that temptation anymore. And while that solves our problem, it creates a new one. We believe that the Torah was written lidorot, with applicable lessons for every generation of readers. Is there a way then for us to read passage after passage on Avodah Zarah and not immediately file it away in the irrelevant category in our brain? How can we understand this in a way that is relevant and meaningful for us? This week on the Parsha Experiment. Let's delve into the treatment of Avodah Zarah in our Parsha and see if the text gives us any clues. Moses begins by giving us a dual commandment. On the one hand, utterly destroy all the places where the other nations who were there before you served their gods. V'nitatztem et mizbechotam, break down their altars, v'shibartem et matzevotam, and shatter their monuments. V'asherehem tisrafun ba'esh, ufsilei Eloheihem tigadeyun. Burn their Asherah trees and destroy their idols. And on the other hand, all these nifty ways of serving gods, these idols, altars, and monuments, lo ta'asun kein la'Hashem Elokeichem. Don't do the same to God. Don't worship Him the way people worship Avodah Zarah, building altars in your own backyard. Ki im el hamakom asher yivchar Hashem Elokeichem mikol shivteichem. Instead, you must go to the special place God will choose, to the Mishkan, or eventually the temple. V'havetem shama oloteichem v'zivcheichem. And there you should bring your offerings. Now, I get why a non-physical God doesn't want to be represented by mere sticks and stones. But what's wrong with building altars? There's a Mizbeach in the Mishkan. Take Rivki. She is a tzadekes. She feels so close to God. It's really inconvenient to schlep out to Jerusalem whenever she feels like she wants to reconnect. She wants to build an altar in her backyard, a special shrine to worship God. What's so wrong with that? But let's keep reading. Moses continues, there, in the place God chooses, bring your offerings and your tithes, and the first of your flock and your voluntary tributes. V'achaltem sham, and you should eat there, lifnei Hashem Elokeichem, before God. Usmachtem b'chol mishlach yadchem atem uvatechem, and you shall rejoice in all your undertakings, you and your household. Asher berachacha Hashem Elokecha, with which God has blessed you. Also, by the way, don't forget to rejoice with your kids, your slaves, your maidservant, and don't forget the Levite either, because he doesn't have an inheritance in the land. Also, Moses adds, don't worry, you can still eat meat. You can't sacrifice the meat to God in your backyard in order to eat it, but you won't need to come to the temple to offer your meat either. You can just slaughter it wherever you live. Just make sure to pour the blood on the ground. This is so random. Are we just exploring tangent after tangent? Destroy Avodah Zarah. Come to my special place to sacrifice to me. Bring your offerings there and rejoice. By the way, you can still eat meat in your backyard. You just can't offer it to God. Is there a theme that connects these laws? Now you might say, Imu, relax. These laws don't all have to relate. We talked about Avodah Zarah, and now we've moved on to some new topics. Well, let's read the very end of this perek. When you finally destroy all the nations in the land, Hishamer lecha, pen tidrosh lelohehem lemor. Be extra careful, lest you seek out Avodah Zarah, the foreign gods that you destroy, and ask, Eicha ya'avdu hagoyim ha'ele es Elohehem. How did they serve those foreign gods? Ve'eseh kain gamani. I'll worship God that way.
Uh-oh, what happened? Are you guys okay? Okay, let me go back to that. I don't know why that did that.
It is an abomination to him. After all, they burned their children in fire for the sake of their gods. Now, where do these last few verses belong? Don't they belong way up in the beginning? The chapter should go, destroy the Avodah Zarah, don't worship God the way people worshiped Avodah Zarah. God hates that stuff. And then we can hear about the laws of God's place, the Levite, laws about meat. Why do we have all these seemingly arbitrary digressions in between? I think these questions together leave us a trail of clues that will help us understand what Avodah Zarah is, why it was so tempting, and how the laws that Moses is teaching fomented a religious revolution that has lasting meaning for us thousands of years later. In our video for Va'etz-Chanan, we mentioned that there is a world of difference between monotheism and polytheism. Many different ancient peoples had many different gods, but not every culture shared the same types of gods. Some pantheons included a god of war, a god of the sea, but there's one god that they almost all had in common. The Egyptians, the Norse, the Etruscans, the Mayans, the Canaanites, they all had gods of fertility. A god who could help them have children and get through childbirth, and who would also provide rain for their crops. Why? Because if you consider humanity's greatest anxieties, the things over which we have the least control, it is our fertility. Think about how vulnerable a struggling couple is and how easily they can be taken advantage of. Take these herbs, wear this amulet, visit this faith healer. We become so anxious that we look for some trick or spell, something that feels religious, but also gives us a measure of control. The anxieties were even greater in the ancient world, where a bad crop would cause famine, where childhood mortality was the norm, where women would die during childbirth. That's very, very scary. And so the notion that I could somehow gain some control over an area of my life where I don't truly have control, that is very attractive. And that is the great promise of polytheism. In polytheism, my worship of God is out of fear. If I'm a sailor, I worship the ocean god. If I'm a soldier terrified of dying in battle, I will pay any tribute I can to the god of war. I think if I scratch his back, he'll scratch mine. But really, my motivation is pure selfishness. I don't really care about the god. All I care about is what he can do for me. In monotheism, I'm not picking one god out of a pantheon to worship. There is only one God. When I recognize that there is one God, I'm saying, God, everything is from you. You are the source of rain, of life, of me. I can't help but feel close to you, my parent, my creator. And in this system, I don't worship him through barter. That's ridiculous. He's the creator. There's no lack that I could possibly fill with gift. Yes, I give to God, but as an expression of gratitude. When a child gives his mom a sloppy handwritten Mother's Day card, the value isn't in the gift. Mom doesn't need the card. It's about what the gift means, the relationship between the giver and the recipient. And that's monotheism, the idea that there can be a real relationship between people and God. Love. On the flip side, the desire for Avodah Zarah is a desire stemming from fear, a desire to have control. This desire for control was Israel's greatest struggle in the desert. As we saw throughout Numbers, they were terrified of surrendering to God because it meant admitting that their fate really lies in his hands. But all too often, when we look for some sort of spiritual trick, an amulet, a faith healer, we lose sight of God. We unconsciously hide from the fact that he is truly the one in control. God is the creator, and it's all in his hand. And here, in our Parsha, Moses takes it a step further. Serving God, the true God, by conveniently sacrificing to him on private altars in your backyard, that too is about trying to take control, even within godly worship. An altar isn't an appliance. It's not a toaster or a washing machine to make your life easier. The altar isn't meant to be in your backyard, in your domain, available for you to put in requests with God whenever you need. True worship is following God to the place where he chooses. Because when you journey to God's special place, you're not just asking God to fulfill your needs. You put in effort too. So you should seek out God, Moses says. You should go to him to express gratitude and love. It's not about convenience, it's about relationship. And your sacrifices take on a tone of relationship as well. You don't barter with sacrifices, no. You bring tithes, goodwill offerings, and they're consumed entirely by God, right? No. Va'achaltem sham lifnei Hashem Elokeichem. You're the ones who eat them before God. Enjoy what you have, but enjoy together with your Father in heaven. Asher beirachacha Hashem Elokecha. In gratitude for all that he has blessed you with. Usmachtem b'chol mishlach yadchem. And therefore rejoice in all that you have. Do you see the difference between the anxiety and fear of polytheism and the gratitude, the love and joy of monotheism? But it doesn't stop there. If you have one God, if he is your parent, then he has other children too. And so you can't consume your bounty selfishly. Usmachtem lifnei Hashem Elokeichem. Rejoice before God with others. Atem uvneichem uvnoseichem va'avdeichem ba'amoseichem. Include your children, slaves, maidservants. V'halevi asher bishareichem ki ein lo chelek v'nachala itchem. The Levites who don't have their own land. Include the rest of God's children in your happiness. That's also an expression of worship of God. It's an acknowledgement of God's oneness. He is the source of everything and everyone. And so God's special place is the philosophical antithesis of Avodah Zarah. Therefore, these topics are just an extension of the original command to destroy Avodah Zarah. But what about the strange commands about meat? In the desert, it seems that Israel was not allowed to consume meat except when they were partaking as part of a sacrifice. And this makes sense. If you remember, in our video on Parshat Shmini, we talked about how vulnerable we become to thinking that we are masters of the world, that we're in control and not God, whenever we take the life of another living being and consume its flesh. So every time you consumed meat, you ate as part of a sacrifice, as part of a recognition that God is in control. He is the ultimate creator. But now that sacrifices would no longer be permitted except in God's special place, Ki yirchak mimcha hamakom asher yivchar Hashem Elokecha. When you enter the land, and you might live too far from the temple, don't worry. You can still eat meat. You need not sacrifice it to God. Recognize instead that you are not the creator by simply returning the animal's blood to your common source, the earth. But why? It's such a beautiful ritual. Every time you want a steak, you must partake as part of an offering to God. The temple is too far for you? Fine. I guess I'll just build my altar in my backyard. Look how religious I am. I promise, God, it's all for you. And God says, yeah, right. You think I don't know that you're building a grill and calling it an altar? You want to eat meat. B'chol avat nafshecha tochal basar. God says, that's okay. You can indulge in your desire. But let's not conflate these two things. Yes, sacrifice meat, but that's only in the temple, the place I choose. And yes, you can eat meat, but don't call your barbecue a religious experience. When our needs and desires mix too closely with our religion, with our need for control, then we approach the evils of Avodah Zarah. A more mature look at the roots of Avodah Zarah reveals an ugly human failing that is terribly relevant in modern times. We should not fool ourselves, turning page after page of Tanakh, detached from laws and stories about idol worship that we see as primitive, irrelevant, and unrelatable. Yes, God doesn't want us to worship idols, but more importantly, he wants us to have a relationship with him that is based on love, based on recognition that he is in control of the universe. Despite our fears and our worries, we must not submit to false illusions of control in an effort to calm our anxieties or to get what we want. Our God is a God of love. He is a parent. Come seek him out in that special place. Celebrate your accomplishments and rejoice. Share what you have with your brothers and sisters. We are all the family of the one God.
Hi, YouTube. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to